time for part 3, the moment we've been waiting for, of Varjak Paw. When we last left Varjak Paw, there was a family council meeting just about to begin, summoned by the elder Paw. And if you remember, Varjak's father was not impressed. You remember the illustration, look on his face. Ooh. It says it was twisted with speechless rage. He does look like he's quite angry right now. So let's see what the outcome is of this meeting. Ooh. And that must be the elder Paw sat up there with all the cats gathered around. What are these two doing? I'll find out. Family council is now in session, declared the elder Paw above the hubbub in the front room. Mother, father and Aunt Junie were whispering to one another, huddled together on a rug so old it had lost its pattern and faded away. Julius and Jasmine were sitting behind them, nodding seriously as if they were grown-ups too. Jay, Jethro and Jerome were fighting over the toy mouse, trying to push each other into the flames of the antique fireplace. A bit dangerous. Have a look. Ooh, whoops. At the elder Paw's words, they all settled down. Varjak was sitting quietly on his own at the back, but his mind was burning. This was his first family council. From Contessa's red velvet armchair, where he stood, the elder Paw began to speak. The family tales tell us that when our ancestor Jalal came out of Mesopotamia, he wandered the earth for many years before finding a home with the Contessa. Generations of Paws have lived in this house since Jalal's time, but those days may be coming to an end. I believe the Contessa is dead. The older cats gasped. They shot strange looks at one another and shook their heads. A log crackled loudly in the fireplace. The elder Paw waited until it was quiet again to continue. She has seldom left her room of late, only to feed us and tend the fire. Our youngest litter, Varjak, Jay, Jethro and Jerome, have hardly seen her. They barely even know what she looks like. She would only let that happen if she was ill. Very ill. And now, this gentleman. What we saw today confirms my fears. The Contessa is gone. Yes, she's probably gone somewhere, said Father. I'm sure she'll be back, and in the meantime her gentleman friend is looking after us. He is not her friend, said the elder Paw. I remember him. He came to this house years ago, before any of you were born. He and the Contessa had a terrible argument. He wanted to take us away, but she wouldn't let him. She threw him out in the end, shouting and screaming. It was silent for a moment. Varjak saw Father's eyes glint green in the dark. There was no light in the room but the crackling, flickering fire. This is absurd, said Aunt Junie. She licked her plump paws confidently. We are purebred Mesopotamian blues, the noblest of all cats. Nothing bad can happen to us. It's silly to alarm the little kittens like this, tutted Mother. They're too young and impressionable to understand anything so serious. They'll go and have nightmares now. You see if they don't. That's right. Father arched his back and stood up. I don't understand the problem. The gentleman is feeding us better than the Contessa ever did. But why is he being so nice to us? Said the elder Paw. Fancy food, presents. It's too good to be true. And what about those black cats who gave Varjak a scare? Oh, we all know about Varjak and his tales, declared Father. No, I see nothing to worry about. I don't believe in those cats. I don't believe the Contessa is dead, and I don't believe this is the same gentleman the elder Paw remembers. He must be getting confused in his old age. There was a murmur of agreement around the room. Varjak couldn't stop himself. He had to speak. I saw the men carry something away, he said. It could have been the Contessa's body. Varjak! Hissed Mother. That really is too revolting. She turned to the elder Paw. You see what you've done? But it's true, said Varjak, and so are the cats there. Shut up, you stupid little insect, snarled Julius. We're the only cats in the Contessa's house, and this is grown-up business, not kitten make-believe. Everyone started to shout at once. The flames roared louder and higher in the fireplace. Listen to me! Demanded the elder Paw, struggling to regain control. We need to make a plan. If things change in this house, we will have to go outside. Elder Paw, cried Mother. What can you be thinking of? Everyone knows the world outside is full of monsters. At least we're safe from dogs. We don't even know what dogs are, said the elder Paw. This is the only world we know. This house is the only world we need, said Junie. The Contessa is fine. Everything will go on as before. Listen to me, pleaded the elder Paw. He stepped down off the armchair and into the middle of the room. That's not good. Father squared up to him. No, you listen to me for a change. His fur bristled. Maybe it's time for someone else to make the decision in this family. The room was completely still now, except for the raging fire. Shocked at what he was seeing, but unable to look away, Varjak watched the two of them intently. Everyone did. Father began to circle the elder Paw, wordless and menacing. He bared his teeth. He looked twice as big, twice as fierce as normal. He shadow danced across the elder Paw's body in the firelight. He hissed and strode forwards. The elder Paw backed away. Suddenly he looked tired and old, very old, like the threadbare rug on which he stood. I'm just saying we should think... That's enough, blazed Father. This council is over. He turned to face the family. Let's go. There was a rumble of support around the room. Varjak's throat felt dry. He couldn't believe how fast it had happened. One moment the elder Paw was in charge. The next it was all over. Purebred Mesopotamian blues, croaked the elder Paw. The family of Jalal. Is this what we've sunk to? The council, spat Father, is over. Oh dear. Things got a bit tense there. Let's have a look and see what happens next. The moment the grown-ups had left the room, Julius turned to Varjak. I know why the Contessa's not here, he said, digging a claw into a toy mouse. It's because she can't stand to look at Varjak's eyes. Jasmine, Jay, Jethro and Jerome all stood by Julius's side. No one stood by Varjak's side. He was alone and boxed in by the Contessa's empty armchair. Poor Varjak, said cousin Jasmine, but she was smiling as if it was some kind of joke. Why do you always pick on him? I'm sure he'd rather have green eyes like everyone else. Because they're different, said Jay. The colour of danger, added Jethro. He's not one of us, concluded Jerome. Varjak ignored them. He didn't even look at them, staring instead into the fire. The Contessa's not here because she's probably dead. Didn't you hear the elder Paw? That's enough, insect, snapped Julius. No one asked you. And how dare you speak in family council? You're a disgrace to the name of Jalal. Julius's tail thudded menacingly on the rug. Very slowly Varjak looked up and met his big brother's eyes. His own tail started to thud. Is that supposed to scare me? Sneered Julius. He towered over Varjak Paw. His claws came out. So did Varjak's. Fight! 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 Jay, Jethro and Jerome crowded round the two of them. Jasmine watched, grooming her fine silver blue fur. Varjak shook inside, but he didn't show it, didn't back off. He never had a real fight, and he knew he didn't stand a chance against Julius, but it was as if something inside him was rising up, something old and strong, buried deep. Who did Julius think he was? Julius, darling, he's only a little kitten, cooed Jasmine in her milk-in-the-morning voice. He's not even a proper Mesopotamian blue, said Julius. He stared at Varjak with devastating green eyes. His pupils were thin slits of scorn, mocking, challenging, daring Varjak to move first. Varjak couldn't. He couldn't even hold the gaze. It was too strong, too sure of itself. Whatever it was that had risen up within him had gone. He turned away and backed down. It was over. Julius had beaten him with just one look, as Father had beaten the elder Paw. In the fireplace, the flames sputtered and died. You're the cause of all this trouble, said Julius. Apologise for what you've done. I'm sorry, croaked Varjak. The words were like hot coals in his mouth. And don't ever do it again, or I'll break every bone in your body. Varjak sloped away from the front room, humiliation scorching his cheeks. A disgrace to the name of Jalal. That hurt the most. He didn't care what Julius thought, but Varjak had always felt close to his ancestor, always loved the tales. He couldn't bear the thought of being a disgrace to him. You wait, he said to an imagined Julius in his head. You just wait. One day, I'll show you. There was no one in the hallway. It didn't matter if he was caught going out into the garden now. Things could hardly get any worse. Varjak went up to the back door, nudged the cat flap open, and slid silently out. The garden was a dark, gloomy place, full of gnarled old trees. They bent back on themselves, grown inwards and locked together, making a tangled net of knotted wood. It was hard to see the sky through them. Beyond the trees lay the stone wall that enclosed the Contessa's house and garden. It was so high that no one in the family could imagine climbing it. Even Varjak, who could sometimes make it halfway up a curtain before mother or father shouted him back down. He drank in the cold night air, peered at the massive wall, the tangled branches, and thought he could see a thin white whisker of moon up there, far above. Varjak! It was the elder Paw. He was on his own at the bottom of the garden, by the crumbling roots of a dying tree. Varjak padded over to join him. "I'm sorry, elder Paw," he said. "It's my fault, everything that happened. But it's true about the black cats. I swear on the name of Jalal, it's true." His grandfather smiled sadly. "I know that," he replied, "and it's not your fault, not a bit of it. It's them. They don't even want to think anymore." They sat in silence together in the shadow of the wall. "Are you still going to tell me the tale of Jalal's greatest battle?" said Varjak after a while. "Against Salia of the North?" "Not tonight," said the elder Paw. "I'm afraid there are more important things to tell you first. You're still young, but I don't think we have much time, and you're the only one who'll understand." Varjak's skin tingled beneath his fur. Even after what had happened in the council, he was thrilled by his grandfather's words. "I'm ready, elder Paw," he said. "Then listen carefully, Jalal. Jalal only knows what this gentleman's up to, but with the Contessa gone, it's more than we can manage. We have to get help from outside." "Isn't the world outside full of monsters?" said Varjak. "A monster's exactly what we need. A monster called a dog. The tales say they're huge and strong enough to kill a man. Dogs fill the heart with fear, with their foul breath and deafening sound. But the tales also say Jalal could talk to them, so there must be a way to get their help, to scare this man away." "Mother and father say the tales aren't true. They say they're only stories." "Only stories," the elder Paw looked at him. "And you believe that?" Varjak shook his head. "No." "Good, because I'm going to tell you a family secret now, an old one. It goes right back to the beginning." Varjak's mind raced. This was the first he'd heard of any secret. "Is it about Jalal?" he guessed. The elder Paw smiled in the dark. "It is indeed. Everyone knows the tales of Jalal, but his way is a mystery known only to a few." The way of Jalal. This was something Julius and the others knew nothing about, and the elder Paw was telling him, and no one else. "The way," said the elder Paw, "has been passed down through the ages from paw to paw. Much of it has been forgotten over the years, lost and corrupted through time. Now only fragments remain. Perhaps the way will help us talk to dogs, perhaps not. I do not know it all, and I fear I won't have long enough to teach you the parts I know, but it's all we have left." Varjak felt strangely disappointed. Now he knew there was a family secret. He wanted to know it all. What was the point of a secret which was lost? Still, something was better than nothing. "Tell me more, elder Paw." "Come closer." Varjak bent towards him. Closer. He leaned right over so his ear was by the elder Paw's mouth. "There are 7 skills in the way of Jalal," whispered the elder Paw. His breath was warm in the cold night air. "We know only 3 of them. Their names are these: slow time, moving circles, shadow walking." He recited the skills slowly in rhythm like poetry. "Learn these words and pass them on in turn." "Slow time," said Varjak. "Moving circles, shadow walking." He rolled the words over his tongue like a new taste. Again. "Slow time, moving circles, shadow walking." His fur prickled at the strange sounds. "Never forget this. Keep the way alive, Varjak Paw." Varjak nodded. The words, Jalal words, were safe in his head. He would always remember them. Click. The back door swung open. Varjak and the elder Paw looked around. The gentleman was standing there, and by his shiny black shoes were 2 sleek black cats.